What's going on, man? Welcome back to the basement. I'm Ron, and week 2 is now behind us, and I'm going to be honest with you guys. The waiver wire is looking tough, all right? The waiver wire is looking tough. It's week 3. Today I'm going to break down who my targets are off of waivers, but I will say at the top here that this is absolutely a week to save your fab bids, to save your waiver wire priority, all of that. This is going to be more of a pluck guys off of waivers once everything rolls through than it is, should I bid 40% of my fab budget? Should I use my number one waiver wire priority on this player? It is slim pickings out there, but we're going to break it all down today. As always, if you enjoy, leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and let's get straight into our priority ads. Now, all of these players we're going to talk about today are under 50% owned in ESPN leagues. We always start with my priority ads, which are guys that I would bid like 5 to 10% of my budget, maybe more, if they're available in your league. And then we'll get into the running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, and quarterbacks that are just, once everything rolls through, you can just pluck these guys off of waivers and stash them on your bench. Now, Basil Tutin, our number one priority ad. Now, he's probably not available in your league, and if he is, shame on you, because if you've been watching this channel, we have been pumping up Basil Tutin the entire summer, and then last week, and now this week, of course. Tank Bigsby is traded. Basil Tutin goes crazy. In his limited role, he goes crazy. He scores a touchdown. He looks efficient. He is the clear number 2 running back behind Travis Etienne with 10 opportunities to Travis Etienne 17. He is purely a handcuff at this point, with maybe some standalone upside if he can carve out a role next to Etienne or beat out Etienne over an entire season. But for now, Etienne's been so good that I don't know if that's going to happen. But Tutin did have in this previous game 8 carries, 42 yards, 2 catches, 32 yards, and a touchdown. He looks explosive. He looks good. He is somebody who needs to be on rosters moving forward. Now, probably the number one waiver wire ad of the week that is actually realistic and probably on waivers in your league is Woody Marks. He is out there in 92% of ESPN leagues. I wouldn't go crazy, but this is a rookie ascending up a depth chart and probably the most worthy waiver wire target this week that you can put out, 10 to 20% of your fab budget on if you are really hurting at running back. This is somebody who is currently climbing up a depth chart, which is something to definitely be looking at when it comes to rookie running backs. He played 12% of the snaps in week 1, up to 28% of the snaps in week 2. This is the utilization report from Fantasy Life showing you his usage, where he's running more routes, he's getting more of the 2-minute drill snaps, and he's slowly but surely working his way up. It's going to take some time for him to ever be a every week starter in fantasy football, but things are trending his direction, where Dameon Pierce is a healthy scratch this week. Daria Gunbawale had some rough reps. Nick Chubb actually looks good, but Nick Chubb is somebody that could easily pick up an injury or fizzle out. And Woody Marks is also efficient. He had 1 catch for 37 yards. You love to see him making a big play. And then also 3 carries for 14 yards is also very solid. So he is, to me, the number one ad that's actually on your waiver wire. Now, the rest of these players are probably taken in your league, but they're worth mentioning. Alec Iomanner, somebody that I had as a priority ad last week, and I hope that you listen to pick him up. He is crushing the rookie receiver report. The only downside is that when we look at his route percentage, he goes from 82% to 68%. But these things change, especially if he is going to ball out and earn more of the routes moving forward. He caught a touchdown this week, 6 targets, 4 catches, 56 yards, and a touchdown. All of that is really good stuff. And his per route, 23.2% targets per out run is really good. 1.23 yards per out run is not going to cut it, but that's because he had pretty much 0 production in week 1. In week 2, that's now bouncing back. And then 8.9% first downs per out run on an offense that's not getting a lot of first downs is really solid. Alec Iomanner, to me, is the number one priority stash in terms of rookie receivers. We'll also talk about Wan'Dale Robinson, who I'd be shocked if he's out there, but he is available in 70% of ESPN leagues. He's 15th in targets in the NFL at this point with 18. He's the wide receiver 9 on the season. And really the big takeaway with him in this previous week, and I don't know that this usage will stick moving forward, but he has always been a gadget player. 3.3 yard ADOT in week 1, but that goes up to a 16 yard ADOT in week 2. If a 10 yard ADOT can stick for Wan'Dale Robinson, he would be a fringe top 24 option every week. It's just that we have a very large sample of that not happening for Wan'Dale Robinson. It's only 1 week, but even still, he is the king of just giving you a 5-catch for 60-yard gain or game in any given week, really, for Wan'Dale. So I don't know that he can be a league winner, like true league winner, but he is somebody where if you're just looking for a body, if you got Matthew Golden or other players who are upsetting you in your flex, Wan'Dale is a fine like wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 style option. Now, if you want to target a year 2 breakout at receiver, Troy Franklin is a good option. He completely took over that wide receiver 2 role in week 2. He runs the most routes and earns the most targets among this wide receiver room. But what I will tell you is that 1, this graphic comes from PFF, and 2, it's Sean Payton. So I wouldn't get too crazy. Sean Payton is out of his mind. He does not care about the previous week's usage. He is crazy enough that he is using Trent Sherfield out here on more snaps than Marvin Mims and Pat Bryant. He is using Adam Troutman on more snaps than Evan Ingram. So I'm just sort of giving you guys a warning. Like, this is one singular week. I would love to go crazy about Troy Franklin. I loved him as a prospect. I thought that he shouldn't have been a day 3 pick. I'm optimistic, but I would just be cautious before we say, okay, this guy is going to run just as many routes as Cortland Sutton every week and is going to be an absolute stud. We'll see. He's still a great add if you need wide receiver help. I'm just saying I would just be cautious. Sean Payton is a dangerous man is what I'm trying to say when we look at fantasy football. Then we have a bunch of players that should have been picked up last week but are still available. Juwan Johnson out there in 52% of leagues. He caught a touchdown. He's the tight end 2 on the season. He is a must-add anywhere, especially if you need tight end help. Fanon as well, the tight end 8 on the year. He's a rookie. He's also looking pretty solid in the rookie receiver report here. We need that route percentage to climb up from 65%, but 21.9% targets per out run is better than Tedero McMillan. 1.73 yards per out run is pretty dang solid for a tight end. 7.8% first downs per out run is also pretty solid for a tight end. So I still think like they're still using him in a very fun way. And as long as Joe Flacco is there, Fanon should be fine along with Cedric Tillman. Now, that is our last priority add. Tillman catches a touchdown. He's a top 24 wide receiver right now. But again, I doubt he is on waivers. Now, let's get to our leftovers at every position. These aren't guys that I would bid like 10% plus of my budget on. But I will say I wouldn't be opposed to like giving a decent fab bid for Tyler Algier. I don't understand how he is out there on like 65% of ESPN leagues. He is a handcuff that is more valuable than guys who are on rosters, like whether that's Braylon Allen or Ray Davis or, I don't know, there's like a billion guys out there that are handcuffs. And Algier is one of the most premium ones. I don't understand like the fatigue on Tyler Algier, but they even love him in this closer role that he actually thrives in. This previous game versus the Vikings, he gets 17 touches. He scores the late touchdown over Bijan Robinson. The week before that, 10 touches. Now he's averaging, 27 divided by 2. He's averaging 13 and a half touches per game. That's really solid for the backup running back. He is a desperation start with Bijan Robinson. Without Bijan Robinson, he is a top 12 weekly play at worst. We'll also say Blake Corum is a great stash in terms of a handcuff on your bench. Kyron Williams has lost his handle on the red zone role. The split went from a 80 to 20 split. It's like a 70-30 split. This is what Sean McVay is saying is the usage he prefers moving forward. And Blake Corum looked good. He scored a touchdown. He split the red zone work. He was a fun prospect coming out of Michigan. So I think that he is a very nice handcuff to have on your bench. And that's really what these running back ads are, is just genuinely handcuffs. Both Bears running backs should be rostered at this point. DeAndre Swift has been awful. And I think at a certain point, one of Kyle Monangai or Roshan Johnson, I think both of them will get opportunities to earn more work. And then it's just going to come down to who has the hot hand, because this running game has been bottom 5 in terms of pretty much every efficiency metric on the ground in terms of the running back position. Then we'll talk about Kareem Hunt. This one's not sexy, but he is averaging 8 opportunities per game in the Chiefs offense. He would be a weekly must start if Isaiah Pacheco was to go down. And I will say, of course, I should have added him as well, but Brashard Smith, who is earning snaps in this offense, and to me, the most explosive pass catcher of the bunch. So I'll try and, I don't know, we'll see if we do time. We probably won't do individual timestamps. We'll do like running backs, wide receivers, etc. But Note to you guys, Kareem Hunt and Brashard Smith. I forgot to load up his graphic. We'll talk about the Washington running backs as well. Of course, Eckler tears his Achilles. You hate to see it. There's going to be some snaps up for grabs. I think I would actually kind of prefer Jeremy McNichols to Chris Rodriguez because McNichols is the better one-for-one replacement to Eckler in terms of just being the passing down back as the satellite third down, 2-minute drill guy. Chris Rodriguez is just like an interesting name that if this sort of gives him more snaps, he could carve out a role in one of the better offenses in the NFL. And then our last running back we'll talk about is DJ Giddens. Jonathan Taylor is one of the last true bell cows in the NFL this season with a 93% snap share last week versus the Broncos. And what that means is that with DJ Giddens being the only other running back active on game days, if JT was to go down, we could pretty much project DJ Giddens for like a true 3-down, 70 to 80% snap share type of role, making him one of the most valuable handcuffs in fantasy football. Now, when we get to wide receivers and we get outside of our priority ads, these guys are really just speculative stashes. This one being Dante Thornton, where he goes from 63% of the routes in week 1 to 85% of the routes last night. He is a starting wide receiver in the NFL, day 3 pick. His issue is that he's purely this like MVS style deep threat, where his ADOT over the last 2 weeks has been 24.8 and 26.3. That's not a weekly starter, but he is worth the stash that he's at least getting on the field and running routes. You kind of need him to develop more into a target earner, especially in the intermediate to short areas of the field. But him getting on the field and running routes is a big deal. Unlike Isaac Tesla, who is very fun, Isaac Tesla, but he is not getting on the field and running routes. At this point, we look at the rookie receiver report, which doesn't have Dante Thornton yet since he played in the Monday night game. Tesla, though, 7% of the routes, then 38% of the routes, but the 38% is kind of an asterisk because the Detroit Lions killed the Bears. There was a lot of garbage time, but there is a good chance that Isaac Tesla overtakes Khalif Raymond, which would be a big deal. All of Tesla's per route metrics are amazing. It just comes down to the fact that he has played on a very small sample. He only has 2 catches to his name, both of them one-handers, really, really cool, but he has a long way to go until we're comfortably putting him inside of a fantasy football lineup. And then we'll also say with Jayden Reed out, Romeo Doubs and Dontavion Wicks are good ads off of waivers. But what I will say is that even with Jayden Reed going down, Doubs still hasn't really budged past 80% of the routes, which still isn't great. He's been right around like 75%. Wicks went from 39% of the routes in week 1 to 65% in week 2, but that's still not enough. Like, we need... It's so tough because we're going to get Christian Watson coming back, so even with Jayden Reed out, they love to rotate these receivers. None of them will be startable until any of them can get to like 80, 85% plus of the routes to even feel decent about starting them. But Dontavion Wicks is interesting. He is somebody where when he runs routes, he earns targets. He goes from a 9% target share to a 23% target share in week 2. He's going to earn targets and looks and volume. But if he's going to be a guy who runs 70% of the routes, he's not going to be startable in fantasy. Then we'll move on to our tight ends and quarterbacks. First up, Zach Ertz. He's not available in your league. But he's available in 50% of ESPN leagues somehow. He's a tight end 3 on the season. He is a touchdown merchant and a good offense, but that's also a fine thing to be in fantasy at tight end. Then we'll talk about Brenton Strange, who's probably the only like decent tight end available in your league. The production's not there yet, but he did go from a 70% route share in week 1 to an 84% route share in week 2. We have Travis Hunter struggling, Brian Thomas Jr. struggling. It wouldn't shock me if Brenton Strange was kind of their steady, reliable chain mover in this offense. And then at quarterback, of course, Daniel Jones. He's the QB2 in fantasy football so far. You can kind of set him and forget him in any matchup at this point as a top 12 to 15 quarterback option at worst. And then if you need a true streamer because Daniel Jones is picked up in your league, Sam Darnold is a fun streamer this week. He's playing versus the Saints. The Saints are allowing the 8th most points to quarterbacks. One of those performances being 280 passing yards and 3 passing touchdowns for Mac Jones. So Sam Darnold should be lined up for a pretty decent day in fantasy. Now, all of these guys will be on my waiver wire report, my waiver wire fab report over on the Patreon, patreon.com/Ron Stewart. This video is going to go live, and then after that, I'm going to sit down and pump out my waiver wire article for all of the Patreon subscribers where you get like 10 running backs, 10 or so receivers, 10 or so tight ends, 10 or so quarterbacks, all of that, how much fab I'm bidding on all of them, a little blurb kind of breakdown of how I feel about these players to get you ready to set your waivers for tonight. On top of that, you get my rest of season rankings. Should be out tonight, probably tomorrow morning. You get my new Dynasty rankings update, all that good stuff and more. Patreon.com/Ron Stewart. But if you can't support there, just leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and I will see y'all in the next one.
Stones, like this froze, ice cold, ice around my body like I'm